Hey everybody, good to see you today. We're going to try something new today. We're just going to do some screen recording and commentary on current news, and hopefully this is enlightening for you. Okay, let's look at the headlines today. There's one big obvious thing going on. It's hard to ignore. The price is way, way, way down. And this is not new. I mean, the price has been down for quite a while. We're down substantially from the all-time high of 69,000, I believe last November is where we peaked out. But not just in recent history has this happened before. This has happened over and over again in the history of Bitcoin. It goes to these euphoric highs, Bitcoin and crypto, I should say, but I'm mostly focused on Bitcoin. It's the market leader. It's the big dog. It's the oldest one in the race. It reaches these euphoric highs and then falls. And people at first, this always happens, think, oh, I'm tough. I can handle the fall. And then it keeps falling and falls further. It dips and dips and dips. And there's a YouTuber named Benjamin Cohen. He's a technical analyst. I, over the last couple of years, have been persuaded to the utility of technical analysis, and he's quite good at it. I really like his take. You can tell the best technical analysts, at least on YouTube, from a couple traits. One, they are not dogmatic. They don't care what chart they're looking at, what coin they're looking at. They really don't. They just look at the lines on the chart, and they tell you what it means. And two, they're never 100% sure. They never say, I know what's going to happen. They say, here's what I think is going to happen. Here's my confidence on that prediction. And here's what I'm doing with my assets as a function of my understanding, right? And they're never all in. They're never 100%. These people don't YOLO in. They are the opposite of that guy who became a Dogecoin millionaire. You remember that headline? I mentioned it in a previous video. He YOLO'd into Dogecoin. It went parabolic. He made like $2 million. But he was a young guy, just a, super stonks, Wall Street bets kind of fella. And yeah, he won, but let's be honest, that was largely luck. And these good technical analysts like Benjamin Cohen, they're not relying on luck. They're playing the odds in an intelligent, analyzed way. That's not emotional. That's not YOLOing in on something. They're just deciding rationally, level-headedly, which way does it look like the line is about to go? What do the trends tell me? What does history tell me? Okay, and how confident am I that that's going to play through this time? So I'm persuaded to the virtue of those things. Benjamin Cohen, this is why I got started talking about him, he says that the bear market will not bottom out until the last bull admits that it's a bear market. Do you understand that? Took me a second to wrap my head around it, but it makes sense. We hold on, we grasp onto these narratives that we're in a bull market. We're going to go to new all-time highs. That 69,000, that wasn't even halfway there. We're going to go well into six figures. Because do you remember last year, all of the Bitcoiners laser eyes till 100,000? I still have my laser eyes on Twitter. I am one of these guys that Benjamin talks about, one of the last bulls who finally is going to admit that we're in a bear. I don't like to admit that. I didn't think it was going to happen. I don't like to be wrong. But it appears that I was, right? It appears that I was irrationally euphoric to assume that we would reach six figures in 2021. And at this point, it's looking like we may not reach it this year. Looks like 2023 might be when it finally happens. That's frustrating. That's annoying. Or, who knows? Maybe we've reset in such a way where it'll be a couple more years until we see euphoric new highs. That's not great. But it's also the reality. And it's always better to face reality than to cling on to a comforting illusion. So let's look at some headlines. That's where we were headed on all of this. From Yahoo Finance, really from Fortune, a Bitcoin margin call if the world's leading cryptocurrency drops below 21,000. Michael Saylor's MicroStrategy will be forced to pay up. Saylor, as you all know, has been one of the loudest, most dedicated, bullish advocates of Bitcoin as this new money, as the best money, as the greatest invention of money in human history. He's very articulate. He's very good at explaining why that would be the case. And I like Saylor. I agree with Saylor. But it kind of doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter if I like and agree with him philosophically. Frankly, what we need is the rest of the world to agree with him, or enough of the rest of the world to drive the price up. Now, this is saying he'll be margin called if it reaches 21,000. Even the critics of Bitcoin say you're an ETH head or you're into some altcoin or you think that Bitcoin is just outdated and, it's a dinosaur that's going to be replaced. You're wrong. But even if you think that, we should not be cheering for this to happen to Michael Saylor. Here's what happens if Bitcoin reaches 21,000. P.S. I don't believe it will. I'm shocked we're as low as we are right now. Presently, the price is at $34,011, but that has been dropping very steadily. So I wouldn't be surprised to see us in the 33,000s very soon. 21,000 is where Saylor gets hit hard, where he has to gets margin called and he has to pay up. Here's what happens if Saylor gets margin called. We're already in some ugly territory. It's already bear market right now. If Saylor gets margin called, that will set us all back, the entire cryptocurrency, blockchain, Bitcoin, and others space for a long time. You don't want to see the champions of the space get margin called publicly. And that's exactly what would happen here. This would be the greatest champion in the space, the greatest advocate, the loudest, most visible figure getting wiped out, right? And Saylor's a resilient guy. He's been at this tech and investing and strategy game for decades, and he's incredibly good at it, and he's a multi-billionaire. Good for him. Big fan. However, if he got margin called, it would be bad news for all of us. It would keep the market suppressed for a long time. Speaking of keeping the market depressed, maybe I should pull it up. Peter Schiff, the great comedian Peter Schiff, he said he's surprised that Bitcoin has seen such resilience in the face of a down market where stocks and everything else are down. And he suggested that there's some kind of coordinated effort to prop up Bitcoin in the face of this falling market, which I thought was hilarious because I have felt literally the opposite, that there must be some kind of coordinated effort to be depressing the price of Bitcoin. Right? Bitcoin was supposed to be this decoupled, independent, non-correlated asset with the rest of the market that was going to rise as inflation went up, as socio-political tension and instability went up, and as the general market went down. Bitcoin was supposed to rise. So far, that has not played out. We are still a correlated asset. And it makes sense to a degree. If you'll recall at the beginning of 2021, when COVID was undeniably hitting the United States and the market collapsed, Bitcoin collapsed right with it because suddenly people needed cash. And what is more liquid than your new age internet fungible money that you can sell any time of day or night for US dollars or stable coins? Bitcoin and the rest of the market went down hard, fast. It was a tremendous buying opportunity, but it's a liquid asset that people will sell a lot quicker than, say, real estate or something that has certain operating hours, right? Stocks, for instance. Let's look at some other headlines. Extreme fear. Crypto crash suddenly wipes out $200 billion from the price of Bitcoin, Ethereum, BNB, XRP, Luna, Solana, Cardano, and Avalanche. Yeah, same kind of thing. Market is down. The whole market is down. Can I tell you, though, one thing that has been the saving grace of my portfolio in all of this? It's something I did a whole video on recently. Giddy. Staking on Giddy has been very generous to my portfolio. And while in dollars I am not down nearly as much as I would be had I held everything in Bitcoin or other top coins. Where everything else is tumbling, Giddy is issuing their new token every single day. And because it's new, they launched this on April 7th. It has not pumped up to parabolic highs. It's gone up a fair amount from their launch a few weeks ago, but it has not seen some huge pump. The community is still small. What I'm getting at is, I don't think, personal opinion, that the price can have a catastrophic drop because we haven't seen a parabolic pump, right? Those drops happen after some kind of irrational rally to the top. That hasn't happened with Giddy yet. So I don't see any rational reason to say that it's going to collapse from where it is. In fact, it's been steady, rising, dropping a little, but steady, generally in a positive trending direction. And they're issuing those tokens every day for the year after, the 365 days after they launch their token. You can still get in. Of course, I'm telling you this as I have a portion of my portfolio in there, and it's been very good to me. So call that, cognitive bias. Call it motivated cognition if you want to, like I'm trying to pump the bag. Sure, I don't care. I'm being fully transparent with you. A big part of my portfolio is in there. It has helped my portfolio quite a lot, as everything else seems to be hurting. Apartments sold for Bitcoin in Portugal after new regulation allows property deals in crypto. This is one of those things that's like a small win, right? We see these all the time. They're pretty nonstop. Even in a bear market, they continue to happen. People will, one institution, a small group of people, an executive board at one minor company will decide, actually, I do believe in this. I think this is powerful. I've been exposed to the ideas long enough. It's simmered in my brain. I've finally come around to it. I'm in on this. We're going to use this. We're going to buy into this. We're going to make this part of our system. It's a constant feed of those if you're looking for these headlines. And these little wins accumulate, right? This is what adoption actually looks like. It's several headlines like these a day through bear and bull. On its own, a headline like this seems really cool, seems like it shouldn't really matter, but ultimately, the accumulation of these headlines really do matter, because this is what's going to prop up the price as adoption actually happens. This is what adoption looks like. Bitcoin clings to 36,000 as data suggests BTC price sell-off came from short-term holders. Okay, 36,000, we're down from there. It looks like we're already in the 33,000s. There it is. A few minutes ago, we were in 34,000s, and I said we were soon going to see 33. There it is. The funny thing about this headline, and the reason I pulled it up, is because the sell-off came from short-term holders. You don't say. Gee, that's some incredible insight from Cointelegraph. Of course, it came from short-term holders. The long-term holders don't sell. That's what makes them long-term holders, right? This is a tautology. It's a statement that's self-referential. Short-term holders didn't hold. Holders held. Ta-da! Surprise! Again, I have a very hard time imagining that we're going to go down to the margin call of 21,000 for Michael Saylor. We're already in blood in the streets territory right now. 33,945 and dropping. This is hard. This is painful. I wish I'd reallocated my portfolio a little bit more. I have, and I'm doing okay, but it's frustrating because in hindsight, you're always like, well, I should have had a cash position. This is a hard thing to learn. And for me, who came into the space ideologically persuaded that Bitcoin was better money, I've been all in on Bitcoin and continue to long-term be all in on Bitcoin. But the reality is the market is up and down. These things happen in waves, and buying and just holding will eventually work for you. But if you want to accelerate things faster, you can be more engaged. You can reallocate your portfolio into other things that you're not betting on for many, many years at a time, right? If I have to pick something that I think is going to be valid, important, useful, adopted in decades, my bet is on Bitcoin. But if I don't want to wait that long for my portfolio to swell, well, there are other things you can do. You can buy into things like Giddy, right? This is a project that I think has near-term potential, and I'm not planning on it being around in 50 years. I have no idea. Maybe they will. That's awesome. I hope so. I hope they're as successful as some of the household names, a la Coinbase, right? They're trying to be Coinbase for DeFi. But you can make a substantial amount of money by playing short-term plays. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Me, the quintessential capitalist. There's nothing wrong with playing for profit in the near term. It took me a while to really believe that and embrace it after being such a die-hard Bitcoin and only Bitcoin head. Moving on. Analysts believe Bitcoin could soon fall to 30,000. That headline would not have been welcome or comfortable a few days ago, but they're not far off from where we are now. We're in the 33,000s. We've dropped like $100 since, and there it is. We've dropped more than $100 since I started recording this video. Jeez. Rough times, you guys. Bitcoin promises a future of abundant energy from Bitcoin Magazine. No surprise here that Bitcoin Magazine is a proponent of Bitcoin as an incentive for green energy. I believe this. I think this is a powerful way to view Bitcoin and a way to engage with it. The attack vector that I think is going to be most successful against Bitcoin is the environmental attack vector. The argument that Bitcoin wastes energy on arbitrary computation, therefore Bitcoin is a waste, therefore it should be regulated out of existence or fundamentally changed away from proof of work so that we don't have to do all of that wasted computation. I fundamentally disagree with this. And there's a powerful way to view this that I think is valid and grounded in reality, that Bitcoin as a profitable energy consumption activity creates a baseline buyer of last resort for energy producers, something that doesn't exist on the grid today. It's actually a net positive. That's what this article is about. Promises a future of abundant green energy. You can teleport Bitcoin anywhere with just an internet connection, even a weak one. You can't do that with power, with energy, electricity. There is a radius that it can travel in, and it requires extensive infrastructure to do that. But if you turn that on site into Bitcoin, you can teleport that Bitcoin to anywhere in the world while capturing value. Come on, this is powerful technology that could have some really positive outcomes if we develop in that direction. The Bitcoin community and broader crypto community, I believe, need to harden ourselves and get very good at defending Bitcoin against the environmentalists or pseudo-environmentalists who are going to use that attack vector to try to tear down proof of work. This is what they're going to use, and it's going to be persuasive and useful to regulators who want to lock this stuff down, the Elizabeth Warrens of the world, who want nothing more than to see this fail. We need to harden ourselves against that. We need to get very good at this argument that Bitcoin promises a green, abundant future. Crypto is winning, but Bitcoin diehards are furious about it. This is an interesting take. I love their animation. P.S. The idea here is that Bitcoin diehards, Bitcoin maxis, are not happy about the existence of alternative cryptos. Altcoins, shitcoins as they're often called. These are pictures from the Bitcoin conference in Miami. I was there at the beginning of April. It was a great conference. This was one of my absolute favorite pieces of art there. This is Bitcoin holograms. These are literal holograms, chemical holography done on glass plates. A fascinating piece of analog art. Are Bitcoin maxis furious about crypto winning? Well, yeah. They are. Bitcoin maxis believe fundamentally that Bitcoin is the only one and everything else is garbage. Man, I am probably in no man's land because I'm sympathetic to that argument without 100% believing it. I don't really want to fall into one camp per se. I am like 90% aligned with the Bitcoin maximalists. But the reality is, I find that absolutism, dogmatism, is not useful. It's shorthand that prevents you from thinking for yourself in a given situation. Right? Easier, not always going to produce the best results. Also, this kind of dogmatism leads to tribalism, leads to dismissive rudeness to the outgroup. Meaning, maximalists are terrible ambassadors. They're not good at bringing new people into the space. I've seen this over and over and over. If you're active on crypto Twitter and if you engage and see Bitcoin maxis, this is just the reality. They're snooty and rude and not inviting. That is ultimately a negative. It doesn't help your cause to act holier than thou. Even if you believe that you're right and they're wrong, the correct way to do this, please, trust me, take this from somebody who grew up in a very orthodox religion and in fact served a proselytizing mission to teach the gospel. Yeah, that's my history. Bitcoin is a tribe. This crypto stuff is very religion-like. And if you want to bring people into the fold and share the good word with them, you're going to need to be a better missionary. It doesn't help to be rude and dismissive. Bitcoin diehards are furious about crypto. Yeah, it's true enough. The Verge has this one about right, I think, and we need to change that as a community. It's not constructive. You need to have positive dialogue amidst the group of crypto heads who are into this stuff, even if there are sharp divisions among them. Have civil dialogue, because guess what? The greater threat to all of us, everyone, whether you're into Bitcoin or Ethereum or Hex. I hate Hex. I think it's stupid. But doesn't matter. The greater threat to all of the blockchain, crypto, Web3, Bitcoin stuff are outsiders, are no-coiners, are regulators who want to shut this down because it poses an existential threat to them. Remember that. Remember where the real threats are. It is not the people who generally agree with you but bear some disagreements. Those are actually your allies. Broaden your umbrella. What is BIP 119 and why is it so controversial? This is Bitcoin Improvement Proposal 119. The proposal is that you would be able to wire into your Bitcoin or your wallets where those coins can be sent. The argument being that this would be very useful to prevent theft. That is true. It would be useful in certain circumstances to prevent theft. It would also fundamentally change Bitcoin into something else. It would be a lot more like a lot of other coins. It would change the fungibility of Bitcoin. And the reality is, where Bitcoin stands today, we're not as fungible in Bitcoin as we should be, right? The Monero crowd has this right. Monero is fundamentally, from the ground up, built to be absolutely fungible. And this makes it very hard for exchanges and other regulated groups to work with Monero, because you can't. You physically can't do it. It washes the money by default, and there's no way to unwash it. Now, Bitcoin's in this kind of like no man's land, halfway between fungibility and non-fungibility. This would make it less fungible. I think that's the wrong direction to move. Fungibility, ultimately, over the long term, is one of the greatest strengths of Bitcoin. It's one of the greatest qualities of money. It needs to be fungible. Otherwise, what do you have? Coupons issued by a third party who gets to dictate to you exactly how you can use it and send it to whom? That's no different than CBDCs. This makes Bitcoin a little bit more like CBDCs. Maybe not a lot, but a little, and I think that's too much. So, against BIP 119. Again, I'm not into dogma. I'm open to changing my mind. Somebody changed my mind. Use that Steven Crowder meme. BIP 119 is a bad idea. Change my mind. Come at me in the comments. Let's hear it. Warren Buffett just took another shot at Bitcoin. What does he know that you don't? Okay, I'm going to reveal something that maybe might ultimately hurt me and not be popular. This headline is dead wrong. What does Warren Buffett know that you don't? Wrong. What do you know that Warren Buffett doesn't? That's the reality here. I'm a little bit ageist. That's the thing that might come back to hurt me and bite me. I'm a little bit ageist. I do not expect old people to get Bitcoin. And Warren Buffett is 92 years old. He is an old man. And the reality is, I have said this before, and I said it on LinkedIn a few months ago, and I was shocked how angry people got when I said this. Warren Buffett's going to be dead in 10 years. Do you really think he's going to be around at 102 years old calling the shots for Berkshire Hathaway? The Oracle of Omaha, people still just kneeling at his feet and listening to every word he says? Listen, he's great. He's done great things in the stock market with a large fund. Good for him. That's great. That's probably not you, and it's definitely not me. It's probably not most of us. Why does Warren Buffett hate Bitcoin, and Charlie Munger even more so, who is in fact older, who is 98 years old? Why do they hate it? It doesn't serve them. It doesn't do anything good for them. They have done extremely well in the existing financial paradigm. Incredibly well. So much so that they are practically worshipped. So why should they want anything to change? Ever. Bitcoin wasn't made for them. Crypto wasn't made for them. This is not who this is for. Banks hated crypto and Bitcoin for as long as they could. The only reason they're coming around now is because they realize that they can't stop it. This is a rising tide. They can't get rid of it. You can't cancel Bitcoin. You can't turn it off. You can't say not allowed, because guess what? There's nothing these third-party institutions can do to break the system. It would not be surprising to me at all if, in fact, federal governments around the world had tried to break the systems and had failed, right? Because by the time it's obvious that this is a threat, it's too late. You can't shut it down. What do you know that Warren Buffett doesn't? You know that self-custody is a powerful idea. Being able to borrow, lend, trade, exchange, buy, sell on an open protocol network at any time of day or night with no third-party permission or oversight, that's a powerful idea. As it turns out, the people who've won in the old paradigm aren't real keen to change the rules. It's not about what he knows that you don't. It's what you know that he doesn't. And the reality is, all of this stuff, Web3, Bitcoin, crypto, blockchain, it is ultimately going to undermine the way he did business. Assuming that Warren Buffett could stay alive for another 30 years or 50 years, he sure wouldn't like the way things are headed, but they're headed there anyway. All of this is going to be radically reinvented on the rails of blockchain, crypto, permissionless, decentralized network. networks. Sorry, Warren Buffett. You had your time. It was really good. Congratulations on your success. No ill will. But that game is ending and a new one is launching. All right, team. That's my spiel for the day. What should I talk about in these one-shot, one-takes? Let me know down in the comments, and we will cover it in a future video. Thanks.